I met my current boyfriend by slipping him my number while he was on a date with another girl and I was their waitress. Back then, I worked as a waitress at the Cheesecake Factory. About a year and a half ago, my now boyfriend came in with some girl. They were on a date. I don't know what exactly about him got to me so hard, but he just drove me crazy. And honestly, his type isn't even usually my type. But for some reason, every time I look at him, I just melt. He has this confident smile, and something in the way he talks just mesmerizes me. He has this special little laugh, after which he always looks down and bites his lip. Basically, for me, he was just the one. So I rushed right over to their table. Usually, if I liked a customer, I genuinely give their table better service. I was drawn to talking to customers I found attractive, and to everyone at the table too. It often got me really good tips. When I started serving them, I couldn't help myself. And, well, I flirted with him very obviously. So much so that my coworkers warned me to be careful or someone might complain. But he flirted back, and I was like a shark that smelled blood in the water. I spent so much time at their table that my other customers started calling me over themselves. I literally forgot about them. Honestly, looking back, it's obvious it was more of a date between me and him than between him and that girl. We talked about his job, about where I study, about my favorite food, about what he likes, about music. In total, I spent around 40 minutes at their table. By the end of it, his date started giving short answers, to me and to him. I thought she would definitely complain about me, so I said screw it. Scribbled my number and slipped it under his card when I handed it back. He texted me that same night, and since then we've been dating. This Friday, I'm moving in with him. Honestly, it was a really rude and shitty thing to do, but I would absolutely do it again without hesitation.
I throw away mugs and dishes. I throw my coworkers' dishes into the trash when they leave them soaking in the shared sink. We have a mini kitchen in the office, and at the end of the day, some coworkers leave their dirty mugs and dishes with oatmeal remnants and other gunk soaking in the sink. Meanwhile, we literally have a sign that says, "Do not leave personal items in the kitchen. We are not responsible for lost items." I often stay late at work and see the night janitor come in. I notice that he washes our dishes and mugs, even though that's not part of his job. Our company only contracted him to clean the floors and take out the trash. We're supposed to clean up after ourselves. Apparently, my coworkers figured this out because they stopped washing their dishes and started leaving whole piles in the sink, knowing that by morning everything will magically be washed and dried. They even joke about the Mexican guy washing their stuff. This has been going on for weeks, and they're brazen enough to complain about water spots on their mugs. So now, whenever I find myself alone in the kitchen, I take one or two items and throw them into the hallway trash so no one can find them. We share the office with other companies. There are no cameras there, so I haven't been caught. One of my coworkers asked management about the missing dishes, but the manager just reminded him of the rules. Maybe I'm acting like a petty jerk, but my coworkers are just... and I don't feel bad about it. Edit. I'd like to clarify that I don't do this every day, only when the janitor doesn't come in for his shift. And I do this during the day, so no one thinks he did it. I know some coworkers are perfectly normal, responsible people who wash after themselves, so I only throw out what has been soaking there for a day or two. I keep track. My boss doesn't care at all. If anyone complains, he just points at the sign and shrugs like, "Your problem." When I was in 3rd grade, I copied a poem from a book and won first place in a poetry contest with it. As a kid, I loved reading and writing. I would stay up late reading everything I could get my hands on. We had a stack of children's encyclopedias at home. Dinosaurs, planets, world history, and so on. One of them had short stories and poems. There was one poem in particular that hit me really hard. It was about loneliness and nature, and it resonated with me on a deep level. I copied it into my notebook where I kept my own writings, along with quotes and poems that inspired me. I was very young, and it never even occurred to me to write down the author's name. It was just my personal diary. A few weeks later, my mom was cleaning my room and found the notebook. She read the poem and assumed I had written it. That evening, she told me proudly how impressed she was. And I being an 8-year-old girl who desperately wanted her mom to be proud. Didn't tell her the truth. I thought it wasn't a big deal, and she was just so happy. A month or two later, my mom was reading the Sunday newspaper and saw an announcement for a children's poetry contest. She immediately thought of my poem and insisted I submit it. That same day, we went to my dad's office where my mom typed it up on a typewriter, this was before home computers, and sent it to the newspaper. And of course, since the poem had been written by an adult and already published, but submitted as the work of an 8-year-old, it won first prize in my age category. My parents were ecstatic. I was drowning in anxiety and guilt. A couple weeks later, the poem, along with my photo, appeared on the front page of the newspaper's art section. I was invited to read it on stage at the awards ceremony. Of course we went. My mom insisted when, honestly, why would I refuse? I got a certificate, a ribbon, and I think a gift card. Don't remember exactly. What I do remember is the crushing guilt. I couldn't sleep at night thinking about it. A few years later, when we learned about plagiarism in school, I felt like they were talking directly about me. I remember finding that encyclopedia, tearing out the page with the poem, ripping it into pieces and wrapping it inside a clean pad before throwing it away, because I was terrified someone might find it. It's been 20 years. I understand now that it was an innocent childhood mistake, not something unforgivable. But I still can't shake the guilt.
My poop jar confession. About 13 years ago, when I was a 19-year-old dumbass, I was hanging out at my buddy's place. His 900-square-foot house was packed with like 25 people. I spent the whole night drinking Mike's Hard Lemonade and sugary cocktails. Worth noting, I'm allergic to certain types of alcohol. Symptoms include hives, throat swelling, and violent diarrhea. But I was 19 and stupid, so you already know where this is going. I was chatting with my girlfriend when I suddenly felt that ominous rumble in my gut. Oh shit, I thought, in every possible meaning. I asked where the bathroom was, and she pointed down the hallway. I squeezed through the crowd of teenagers only to find a line of girls that looked like it stretched into eternity. Meanwhile, my intestines were screaming, the cramps were getting worse, and I knew I didn't have much time left. Then I remembered seeing a toilet in the basement earlier. I bolted downstairs, clenching for dear life. It was dark, so I flipped the light on, and there it was, a pristine white toilet in the corner. I slammed the door, yanked my pants down, and penguin waddled towards salvation. But, surprise! The toilet wasn't hooked up. Just sitting there, not connected to anything. Apparently, the renovations stopped halfway. I was in a full-on disaster situation. If I shit in that thing, everyone would know exactly who did it. But my ass was basically exploding already. There was no holding it in. I panicked, looked around the room, then I saw it. An open glass jar filled with dried, scented flower petals. The lid was on the shelf next to it. Decision made. I grabbed the jar, dumped the petals into the empty toilet, gently set the jar on the floor, squatted over it, spread my cheeks, and unleashed hell. Carefully, accurately, like a sniper. I filled it to the brim. The relief I felt in that moment was probably the greatest of my life. But then reality hit. What the hell do I do with a jar full of fresh, molten shit? I couldn't leave it in the basement, and people upstairs were already calling me. I pulled my pants up. I didn't have anything to wipe with, but I managed to evacuate like 99.99% of the disaster, so it wasn't too messy. I screwed the lid on. The jar was warm. Very warm. Still having zero plan, I tucked it under my hoodie and walked out like nothing happened.
"What were you doing down there?" my girlfriend asked. Just freshening up," I said, praying she wouldn't notice the literal contraband poop jar I was smuggling. "Hurry up, everyone's waiting in the kitchen so we can go." We pushed through the crowd into the kitchen. Everyone was gathered near the pantry door, which led straight to the garage. "There you are," they said, opening the garage door. And that was my chance. The open garage door blocked everyone's view of the pantry shelves. I slipped the jar out from under my hoodie, set it down next to the other identical jars, and walked out of the house with the group like a goddamn mastermind. To this day, I still think about it. I honestly can't believe I got away with it. And I still have questions. Did anyone ever find that jar? Did they open it? Did they think it was beef stew? Did they sniff it, try it, throw it away? I regret it, I really do, but I was desperate. That's my poop jar confession.
For 3 weeks, I spammed a colleague with read receipts for the same email. A few years ago, I discovered a way to send multiple read receipts for the same email. In our company, you can disable read receipts, but there was one colleague who insisted that we keep them on, so he would know we'd read his emails. He annoyed everyone so much that our manager ordered us to remove the block. After a lot of tries and experiments, I figured out that if you save an unread email into a folder on your desktop and make several copies of it, then opening each copy sends a new read receipt again and again. I immediately sent him a couple dozen of those. He asked why he was getting so many read receipts for a single email. I said I had no idea what he was talking about. Like, I just opened the email, replied, and deleted it. A couple of days later, I sent him another batch of receipts, again for the same email. For all other emails, he received exactly one read receipt from me. He asked again what was going on. I played dumb. Over the next several weeks, I continued sending him a random number of receipts, sometimes once, sometimes more than 50. I just copied the email into the folder and opened all the copies at once. He got more and more furious, was convinced I was doing it on purpose, and eventually contacted tech support. The IT department got interested and asked to look at my laptop. I admitted I was doing it intentionally and explained why. I said I'd had enough fun and was stopping. They closed the ticket with the standard line, "Looks like the issue is resolved," and recommended disabling read receipts altogether, which we eventually did. I was genuinely afraid I'd be fired because technically I was wasting work time and deliberately annoying a colleague, but nothing happened.
Thank you so much for watching. Leave your confessions in the comments below and don't forget to check out our other videos.